Hey everybody, today I'm going to talk about the generational differences in business, how people under 40 have to make it in the cycling industry or really make it anywhere, and how the retired, the older generations don't really understand what stresses were put on. They're kind of in a different world than us. And I'm going to start off by telling you a story about a guy who was retiring this year. He ran a bike shop, then he did other things. But, 8 years ago, I bought out a lot of his inventory, a lot of tubes. He gave me a deal, but it wasn't like a crazy good deal on the tubes and stuff. And then once there was nothing worth taking, I stopped going in there to buy product years ago. And I get a phone call this summer, and he tells me, I'm closing up shop, I'm renting out this space. You're welcome to come take any bike stuff you want that's left. And I'm like, sweet, great. So then I go there the next day, and there's at least 100 wheels hanging up. Nothing fancy, just like steel, basic kids replacement wheels, beach cruiser replacement wheels. And I go to take those. He's like, oh, no, I'm going to try to sell those. Okay. Then he takes me in the back. He's got, a couple hundred square footage of just old bike junk. Buckets full of bike forks from the 90s that are threaded, that aren't high quality. Just all this junk. And he's like, you can have all of this. Rotted out tires and cables that are bagged up. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. I'll take it. I'll take it to the recycling center. Whatever, like, fine, I'll take it. And as I'm working, loading up my truck full of this stuff that I don't really want, he's like, I tell him, I'm like, thank you for giving this to me, thanks. And he's like, yeah, well, we agreed on you just having it for free, so that's what we'll be doing. Like, he was like bummed out that I wasn't paying for it. And it made me like feel stressed out, because I was like, I was doing this guy a favor. I had known him for years. And he's like guilting me for taking this stuff that I don't even want to take. And later on in the video, I'll explain why I don't want it. But so that's not enough. I load it up, and then he says to me, so I gave you cables and stuff. I've got grandkids' bikes that I still need to work on, and I hope that you'll give me back whatever. If I need something that I gave you, I hope you'll give it back to me. And I just was livid. I was like, you didn't give me anything. You gave me your hoarding responsibility. Like, now I have to hold on to all this stuff I was gonna take to the dump. I have to now hold on to it in case this guy calls me and wants it back. I don't have the money to be a storage facility for someone else, So I was pretty frustrated, and I did get rid of the stuff I really didn't want. I still got a bucket of, he gave me a bucket of kickstands that not kickstands, these training wheels that didn't even have all the parts to them. I had to get rid of most of it. Anyway, so time goes on, few months pass, and he calls me. And he says in the voicemail, because I don't answer it, Greg, I gave you some grips, and I need some grips for a bike, and I need some tires. I need you to come down here and give me those, and then you can have some more stuff. And I kind of told him off over text. He never gave me any grips, and I didn't take any of his tires because they were dry rotted. And I would have remembered him giving me grips, because if he gave me grips, those would have been something I could sell. They would be in a box in my truck. So I know he didn't give me any grips. So not only is he trying to hold me responsible for his storage unit, he's asking for things that he didn't even give me. And I just was like, I sent him a message. You didn't give me any grips, and I don't need any more product. And I'm going to get into why that I don't want any more product. So he bought this building, decades ago. I'm sure he didn't even pay close to $100,000 for the building. If I went to go buy that building or to go lease that building right now, it would cost $20 to $40 per square foot per year for me to have his building and operate my building in. I'm being generous here with 500 square feet of his building was dedicated towards hoarding this outdated junk that was never going to sell to anyone. If you do the math on that, it was more than 500 square feet, but let's 500 square feet of it was junk that was not worth anything. Every year, that would cost $10,000 for me to have a retail square footage paying to house that. $10,000 every year for stuff even he would admit isn't worth $10,000. Okay? He's had this stuff sitting since the 90s in a retail space. That is over $200,000 minimum cost for anyone trying to start a bike business, start a retail business, anyone in the last 10 to 20 years. They would have to pay $200,000 to house his generously $1,000 worth of merchandise over the decades. So baby boomers, older generations, they see value in stuff, you know. They see value in holding on to a wheel for decades, and you can sell that wheel because the money figures in their head that they're working with is so much different than the money figures we're working with, you know. I had a guy, Larry, in the comments, one of my videos, he was like condescending to me. He was like, you need to take some night school classes and take some business classes and learn how to run your business. I went to college. I went to an early college high school. I took biotechnology classes at the local college when I was 16. I went to regular universities, you know. I majored in outdoor recreation with a minor in entrepreneurship. I've taken business law classes. I've taken entrepreneurship classes, you know. And the reason I run my business the way I do is because I got educated. I see the business. I see the numbers on operating a business. And I came to the conclusion, the only way you're going to run a business in the bike industry is either being super tiny or super big. Okay. So I made a deliberate choice when I was able to get some access to money to start a business to buy a mobile work truck. You know, do I make amazing money? No. This year I made more money than I've ever made. And I've been running this business for 8 years. Okay? Go find another bike shop that 2025 was the best year, the most profitable year they had in business. Okay? I might not be like a genius, but I'm not a fool. Okay? I run my business small because I know how much it costs to run a business not small. I've looked at the numbers. I've worked in bike shops. I know what I'm doing here. You know, people think, oh, well, you can make tons of money running a mobile bike shop. I don't make tons of money, but I work half as much. This is basically a part-time job. This time of year, I'm working 8 hours a week tops. Sometimes during the year, I work 60 hours a week. I could work more, but I get burned out. So let's put in an average. I work about 20 hours a week. That's 1,000 hours a year. If you were a mechanic working in a bike shop, getting paid decent, you're working 2,000 hours a year, and you're going to be making probably the same amount of money as I'm making. And there's only a matter of time before all those mechanics in those chain shops are going to realize, oh, they could advertise, they could run a mobile shop, they can run a shop in their garage at their house. And people under 50, they know that the quality is in people like me. It's in people working in a shop in their home. The idea of like needing to go to a bike shop, a real bike shop to get great service, that's done away with. So it's the market, you know. The market is completely different. That guy thought he was doing me a favor. He was giving me product. But what he was giving me was a liability. It wasn't an asset. The older generations, they see product, they have their 4,000 square foot houses with all this stuff. I see if I went out and went and bought a bigger house with bigger square footage, that'd be an extra $3,000 a year that I can barely pay for in property taxes. That'd be an extra higher mortgage. The interest rates are crazy, you know? It's a different world. So my advice to people who are under 45 that are starting out in the industry, don't listen to the older guys. They don't understand what it's like. You know, just the fact someone thought, oh, this guy, he can talk for 15 minutes straight, but he's working in a little truck. He's a little fool. He needs to take night classes. You know, maybe I took offense to it. It shouldn't have been given, but I did take night classes. I didn't take night classes. I went to college after high school. I'm not a college hater. I think a college is a good thing to do, but it's where you're at in your life. If you're 40, do you want to go to college for a bachelor's degree? I think there's better things to do with your time if you're 40. If you're straight out of high school, go to college, because what is everyone else doing your age? You know, they're getting into trouble. They're messing around. You know, you got to look at the 18 to 24-year-olds. They're the best thing they could do for their life to get educated, to make good connections, to set themselves up for life, isn't going to a trade school. Go to a trade school at 24. Whatever. You can make good money in the trades. Go to college. Take some college classes. If you can't get into the best schools, go to the cheapest schools. That's my opinion on college. I think it's a very worthwhile use of your time. But, you know, we're facing things in the industry that they didn't have to face. I saw on an industry page, one of the old timers, the old bike shop, the old guard, they were complaining that all these bike companies keep going bankrupt and they keep getting bought up and they're reopening. And we need less bike brands, because the bike brands, the margins are getting cut too close. We need to clean out the marketplace, and we need bike brands to fail so the margin can raise up. That's never going to happen. And the reason why that's never going to happen is because with AI, with everything, Trek is only going to hire a handful of guys that they will pay a wage that they can afford a $700,000 house and raise a family off of. Every single big brand, there's only a handful of jobs that they're going to give to people that they can make 6 figures on. So what do people like me and other people under the age of 50 do in the bike industry? We have all this knowledge. Do we just twiddle our thumbs, work for the baby boomer who owns the bike shop and get paid peanuts? Like, I'm going to get paid peanuts on my own, and I'm going to work less. Other people, they're going to start their own bike brands. You know, does Spot Bikes and Revel Bikes really need to exist when Yeti and Ibis exist? Like, no, not really. They're about the same type of bike, but the people who run those brands need a job, and they're scrappy. They can make a good product that people will buy, and the marketplace is going to continue to get crowded, because the big brands, Specialized, Trek, Giant, the big brands are not going to give everyone a good wage. They're going to keep the profits to themselves. So we got to go out and we got to start our own brands. We have to do our own things to make a living, because we don't live in the type of economy where you can sit on 500 to 1,000 square footage of old bike trash for decades and still come out on top retiring with 6 figures. You know, that's not the way we're going to be able to make it. We have to be leaner. We have to be smarter. And it's not an age thing. If someone started in the bike industry 10 years ago and they were 40 when they started, they can give you good advice. But if someone started in the bike industry in the 90s, in the 80s, and the 70s, whatever age they are, they're not going to give you advice you need to be successful in the bike industry. And I don't think they would give you good advice to be successful in any industry, because what I've noticed is they really don't understand the economy as it is today. They have their retirement. They have their health insurance paid for. They've got their house that went up 500%, 1,000% in value from when they bought it, you know? That's my rant. That is my rant. I hope I didn't offend any of my older listeners. But you know, the comments, they kind of get to me sometimes. Like, oh, go to college. You need to figure out what you're talking about. I gone to college. I done gone to college. Have a good day, everybody.